Pam Bondi, Donald Trump's very corrupt attorney general, was too scared to show up at a press conference when the indictment of Don Lemon was announced, and said she sent Todd Blanche, the deputy attorney general. You see, on Friday, the Department of Justice was also releasing they claim they were releasing the Epstein files, but it seems that they would just release 3 million of the 6 million documents, and it had all sorts of incoherent, inconsistent, and violative redactions. And so it seemed that Pam Bondi wanted to avoid being asked any questions. And I think Pam Bondi, frankly, is terrified about having to testify in mid-February before Congress, where she's going to have to justify and speak about the atrocities that have been committed under her watch, from covering up child sex trafficking rings to weaponizing the DOJ against Comey and Letitia James, and in putting Lindsay Halligan in place, Donald Trump's messages to her on Truth Social, directing her to do things, and her saying, I, Captain, I'm going to do what you want me to do, Donald. And then her social media posts. I mean, I think it's just going to be brutal when she has to show up for testimony. And I genuinely think that she's like, I know people who know her, and I'm not just saying, oh, she's scared and panicked. I think she's actually truly scared. I mean, she made this bizarre selfie video of herself when she announced the indictment of Don Lemon. That's just such a strange thing. Like, if you're the attorney general, you show up, you stand on business. If you think it's a high profile thing, you show up, you hold your press conference. You don't just pawn it off to somebody. Watch this weird, it almost looked like a hostage video she was creating of herself. Let's play this clip.
Make no mistake, under President Trump's leadership and this administration, you have the right to worship freely and safely. And if I haven't been clear already, if you violate that sacred right, we are coming after you.
We are coming after you. I'm Pam Bondi. Then she posts, at my direction early this morning, federal agents arrested Don Lemon, Trahan Jean Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamal Liddell Lundy in connection with the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. More details soon. And she made it clear, it's at my direction, which, can I just pull back for a second and say how unusual that would be for the attorney general, the top law enforcement officer in the United States of America, saying this is being done at my direction, but not the direction of the Minneapolis federal prosecutor's office and the United States attorney's office there, and based on a thorough investigation. At your direction as the AG, being ordered by Donald Trump to do it. And then Donald Trump's White House makes posts mocking Don Lemon, saying, when they give you lemons, make lemonade, or whatever it is. And this was after you all filed a criminal complaint against one of the protesters there, and then did AI videos to manipulate the way that she looked. And then just the language that used, the coordinated attack on City's Church. What coordinated attack? Here's what I saw. I saw protesters in the church. Were they being disruptive? Well, hate to break it to you, protests make people feel uncomfortable. Can I tell you what feels more uncomfortable? Being shot in the face by Border Patrol, Gestapo, and being killed, as they've killed numerous Americans and numerous people in this country. So protesting the fact that people are dying in detention centers, being tortured on the street, being sprayed with carcinogenic gaseous substances, being brutalized, being killed, yeah, maybe people felt a little comfortable. So for feeling uncomfortable, would you say, hey, maybe it's disorderly conduct? I don't know. But the federal act called the FACE Act, which deals with physical threats and physical intimidation, which was actually a law that was passed because you had individuals, terrorists, standing outside of reproductive healthcare centers and shooting and killing and beating down women who were trying to get abortion care or get health care at women's reproductive rights areas. the bill that led to the FACE Act included aspects of, well, if the same type of conduct occurs in a church, it'll also be a crime, the same type of crime, in order to make this bill a bipartisan bill, but it requires physical force or physical threats of intimidation, not being loud or obnoxious or protesting. So set that aside. I think it's a difficult case against the protesters and the activists. I think that they get a not guilty. But then you bring Don Lemon and you bring people like Georgia Fort. Now, we'll talk about Lemon in a second, but Georgia Fort is a vice president of the National Association of Black Journalists, 15, 20-year career in journalism, award-winning journalist. And she and Don Lemon and the others were there filming what was happening. The Trump regime has turned our cities into a war zone, and effectively independent reporters have become like wartime correspondents, like being in a war zone, because that's what the Trump regime turned Minneapolis into. It's like being a wartime reporter in Fallujah. So Don Lemon, Georgia Fort, they were, as journalists with their First Amendment rights, taping. In fact, while they were in the church, Don Lemon said numerous times, I want to be very clear, I'm not with them. I'm here as a journalist. Then when one of the people who worked at the church touched Don Lemon, even in kind of like a way, like not like a threatening way, just kind of touched him like, listen, let me explain to you. Don Lemon's like, please don't touch me. Let's talk about what's happening here, but no touching. And then Don Lemon asked questions like a reporter would ask. There's no crime being committed here. And it's the most offensive and absurd thing that took place. And then when you get into At My Direction, and then Pam Bondi had Don Lemon arrested in Los Angeles, thrown into a prison in Los Angeles. They tried to stop him from being released, and then he had a fight to basically get released on his own recognizance. So you have Pam Bondi making that tape. Then you had this cabinet meeting. Let's play this clip where Donald Trump refuses to call on Pam Bondi and refuses to call on Kristi Noem. Let's play this clip.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Mr. President, one question. Thank you very much.
Let's go. Start moving. Thank you, press.
Bondi there when she wasn't called on, and Trump cut off. He called on the other cabinet members and not her. And so she's like, I got to prove myself to Donald. I got to prove myself. Look what I'm going to do. Let's bring in Harry Litman from the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Talking Feds podcast, Talking Feds Substack. Harry, they did bring out Todd Blanche. Okay. I just want to show you this to react to. They brought out the deputy AG to hold the press conference all by himself. And Harry, usually in these types of press conferences, if you're doing your big high profile one, you're flanked by FBI and you're flanked by all of your U.S. attorneys and the AUSAs. Everybody's proud to stand up with you and stand on stage. But this is what Todd Blanche did as Pam Bondi's making selfie videos. Here's Todd Blanche.
On Epstein, sir, if I may just ask one on that, please. You mentioned a letter to Congress. How and to whom did you notify the White House about the production that you're announcing today before you came out and spoke to us?
How did I do what?
Notify the White House. What was your interface with the White House? You said there's a letter to Congress. Who did you update at the White House about this?
Well, I don't know. I don't really understand the question.
Harry.
He's flummoxed, right? Oh, yeah. May I jump in?
Please.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, what about that, right? She doesn't even understand why the import of the question. Bondi. And I want to combine the two strands of your excellent summary there, Ben, because on the one hand, February 11th, she has a little date with Congress. If she does do her sort of truculent, screw you, you piece of crap, Congressman, she's got a lot of splaining to do, and that'll be hard. But the pressure she's operating under, it seems to me, is she's been widely reported to be in Trump's doghouse. And so she definitely wants to, polish the apple for the maximum leader. Don Lemon, what could be better? And using a statute that, as you say, is really about violent interference with the rights of reproductive health patients and bringing it to church services. And then it's all part of Minnesota as well. Remember, she went there over for 2 days. The Attorney General herself, who, as you point out, the Attorney General does not handle individual cases. She's there personally. Is it to talk about Preddy, say, and how to handle that? What about good? No, it's all this church thing, which if you've seen the tape, if you read the indictment, yeah, it's as you say, there is some, definite protest there. They need intimidation, etc., under both laws, not to mention the First Amendment, Brandenburg gloss on all of it. If you're going after the press, they really don't have it. So they massage as much as they can. First, they make it a conspiracy. So really, what the hell happened? I mean, I think your analogy, Ben, for being, with a military force is really apt. You're going to go cover something they're doing. Of course, you're going to talk with them and which way you're going to go and what happens then. You could get killed otherwise, but you want to plan it. And the point that she's made again and again, you've heard it in every of her statements, coordinated. So what she's trying to do is take what is really routine journalist activity to try to cover the demonstration and make it as if Lemon, who, as you say, never touched a person, is somehow to be blamed. There's one point where he asks questions at the entrance to the church. They make that he's blocking people, keeping them out. They try to recharacterize everything. This case, you're right. It's going to crash and burn. The question is when. But in general, he's acting like a journalist. Georgia Fort is acting like a journalist, and it's stunning without regard to how it's going to, be another debacle for the DOJ that they brought it in the first place, and that everybody tells, I don't want to work on this. Shit, no, we can't do this case, Ms. Attorney General. And she not only went forward and ordered it over everyone's opposition, but she burnished her resume with it, but not so much as by being out front. She is really between a rock and a hard place. I think she's scared, totally outmatched and outgunned, doesn't even understand all the traditions and norms that she's breaking every day. She don't want to be out front because she's going to get clobbered by the press. On the other hand, she wants to take credit so she can get in, better in Trump's graces, which we know she isn't. And, she's fighting for survival, and I doubt sleeping very well. But the one instinct she returns to is, what does Trump want? What does Trump want? What does Trump want? Law, constitution, norms, be damned.
Talk to us about the way Don Lemon was arrested. And lots of people are saying, well, why was it in LA and not Minneapolis? And why did it go down this way? It further speaks to kind of the vindictiveness, I would say amateurness, but it was intentionally vindictive. A social media post, more details to come. He was at a Grammy event covering it as a reporter where they basically arrest him. How would it normally go down, Harry?
The exact opposite. This is stunning to anyone in the DOJ. Look, they had to arrest Trump on charges. What did they do? What you do to any credible defendant, you give a summons and they show up on their own. It's I'm reminded a little, except this is even worse. It took away his liberty. He had to stay incarcerated overnight. But remember when he fires Comey, and the first one he says, you may not take the FBI plane home. You got to get a commercial flight. This sort of, sick, perverse instinct to rub the people's face in it, like the third grade bully that he is, or maybe he got the third grade bullying, and that's why this country is seeing it all. But 100% zero doubt here, Ben. you give a summons to a guy like Don Lemon. Why? Is he going to like flee? Is he going to be violent? Of course not. Of course he's going to show up. And by the way, they did this on their own with a dozen agents. But then they went for a hearing where they said, don't let him travel except in New York. I mean, they took it on the chin for the first of what will be many times in the case. The magistrate said, no, I'm releasing him on recognizance, and no, he can travel within the United States, et cetera, and pursue his livelihood. What are you talking about? So now, having gotten their big hit, and Pam Bondi, beating her chest and served it up to the maximum leader. Now they're in court, and there's going to be, at every step until the Don Lemon is a free man, and he'll never serve a day in jail, whether it's whatever motion to dismiss happens, whatever. They are so overextended. And remember, it's going to be in Minnesota where the whole bench hates them, and you've seen what the chief judge is saying. They've just, even without the political overreach, they've just been completely an onslaught of cases, and they issue orders, and the administration violates them. As you said, the chief judge said in January alone, they've violated more orders than most agencies have done in their lifetime. So Don Lemon is now going to have a tailwind between this was her best day, and she's got to hope she got a lot out of it with Trump, because it's going to be a really strong addition to the list of humiliations and debacles that this vicious, constitutionally ignorant attorney general is racking up.
That's what I would always tell the lawyers who worked under me when they would file a complaint. Make sure that's just a regular day. If that's your best day, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Make
Right.
sure that's actually just a day. Not your best day should be when there's a verdict or when there's an appeal that is confirming or affirming the verdict. You have a long way to go. And so if you're spiking the football on that day, and by the way, this is Trump's
on video, right?
Trump's whole regime is spike the football on the day and then cover up the fact that you didn't do what you say you actually did, and then
Change the subject, right?
change the subject. I mean, to your point, now they got to go in court every day, and they're going to be assigned a federal judge, and the federal judge from Minneapolis is going to look at this and saying, what the hell happened? And then you and I are going to be reporting, what the hell did you tell the grand jury? Did you show the grand jury the full video, or did you just take a snippet? And I bet you there was grand jury misconduct. The grand jury was not instructed the right way. They didn't show the full video. They didn't explain First Amendment stuff to the grand jury, or they withheld saying things like that. They probably just had an FBI agent show up on hearsay, describe what happened, and the FBI agent said, here's what happened. What happened? Oh, he physically assaulted him. He used his physical force. I bet you they didn't show the videos. I bet you they didn't do the if you're an ethical prosecutor, you would, but you don't have to in your presentation, right? You could.
We're not in the federal system. It's true. One quick point to add to what you're saying, though. That's going to happen. Guess who is Lemon's lawyer? Same lawyer as for Jim Comey. Really one of the top defense lawyers in the country, who left his big firm to do cases like this. Abbe Lowell. We saw how effective he can be, both, well composed, poised, but really, bring out the big guns. And whoever, we don't even know if anyone's left in the Minnesota office, but whoever it is going to get quite a lesson in litigation chops from Abbe Lowell.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the Talking Feds YouTube channel, the Talking Feds Substack, and the Talking Feds podcast. After this video ends, search Talking Feds. Thanks, Harry.
Hey, thanks, Ben.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.